This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome back to the Warner Brothers podcast. I'm Kyle, joined once again by my brother Keenan. Keenan, what's up? It's the Monday after All-Star Weekend. How you doing?
I'm good. Man, I know you've been holding it down with Brandon, Timmy. I've been on overnights for my job, so the time we normally record, I'm having to change around clothes and apparel at Dick's Sporting Goods. But I'm good. All-Star Weekend was All-Star Weekend, and we didn't get to do our annual rant pregame, but we can do an annual post-game. We can do a post-game for sure. All-Star Weekend was All-Star Weekend. I think there were a few good moments of it, but overall, it's All-Star Weekend. Let's begin and let's dive in, Kyle. Where do you want to start?
You know what, Keenan? You said, we didn't do our annual pregame or pre-weekend rant, which is, it's sad that we have to have a pre-weekend rant, right? Like it's a mostly negative conversation about All-Star Weekend. And I thought about it. I thought about doing it maybe with Brandon Petty, or I think Tim even talked about it because he was interested. He said he was going to watch All-Star Weekend, check it out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this one final chance. I'm going to watch this new format as far as the All-Star game goes. I mean, I know what I'm getting as far as All-Star Saturday night goes. Going to give it one more chance, and then we can react and review on Monday. Let's start in order, though. Let's start with Friday, which you watched. Did you watch the Rising Stars game? Did you watch the Celebrity game? I did not catch a single dribble of the Friday events. I don't think I've watched the Celebrity game in several years. I've caught the Rising Stars game the last few years. I usually have it on in the background, not paying attention too in depth. The last one I really remember, Keenan, was the one, it would have been probably 3 or 4 years ago. Jose Alvarado was either in his rookie or sophomore year, and they had him mic'd up. And it might have been the beginning of the tournament format they're doing now. It was pretty good. I remember it was a good watch. Like, I liked it, and it was competitive. So if you watch Friday night, tell me your thoughts on it.
So I caught it in between, because again, Friday night was one of the nights that I was doing overnights, but I was able to kind of catch it in between. The Celebrity game I really didn't catch. What I did catch, it seems like every year the NBA pushes a certain person or like two people. For a while, it was Kevin Hart. This year, it seemed like Kai Cenat and Drewski were two guys.
This year was Kevin Hart too. Nothing
And
really
Kevin Hart's just like, it's not even pushing Kevin Hart anymore. I feel like he's just like, it's Scott Van Pelt. It's just a staple of ESPN. I just feel like it's just Kevin Hart's a staple of ESPN at this point. I don't know how it happened, but I just feel like it is. But like, I feel like every year they kind of key in on a couple people. So I feel like this year was Drewski and Kai Cenat. It was fine. It was a Celebrity All-Star game. I don't think it's bad, and I think that there's the only thing I hate, and I'm continuing to hate it even more now that I watch even more women's basketball than I did before, is that women's basketball players are there, because obviously they could cook anybody who was there other than the NBA like retired players, depending on how old they are or how much in shape they are. If they're Jason Williams or Baron Davis, depending on what side of the ledger they're on, but. Like Rakia Jackson's there. It's a great look for her. I mean, she is getting more eyes on her than she did probably most of her season, other than maybe her Caitlin Clark games, because those games are actually pretty highly watched. But she obviously couldn't. I mean, obviously she could go out there and get 60 if she wanted to on every possession. It's not like Kaisa not stopping her. So that I always felt a little weird with the WNBA players there, but whatever. And then the Rising Stars. I think that the All-Star game format, how they kind of mimic the Rising Stars, I think it works for them because all of them, this is their first or second time being there, and I think they all want to actually like put on a show kind of thing where they want people to watch. They want to put in effort. So you have G-Leaguers who are like, oh, this is maybe my first time and my only time possibly getting seen by this many people because you obviously don't know how your career is going to go. you want to get to the next level and play at a high level, but you don't know if that's going to happen. So I feel like that game is perfect for this format, and I think I'm glad that we'll get to it on Sunday. Well, that part on Sunday. But for Friday, I like the Rising Stars Challenge. Stephon Castle played very well, won MVP. And if you watch the game, it wasn't like fourth quarter of a playoff game, but it was a legitimate, okay, there's defense. There's still athleticism. They're still playing, but these
Wemby
guys
played,
are
right?
still playing. Wemby didn't, actually.
That's surprising.
He could have, but he didn't. No, Wemby didn't.
Usually, even if you happen to make it to the All-Star game, you play. Usually like Luka was in there on a Friday, even if he made it. I remember Durant was in there. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, we can move on to Saturday. The only commentary I have is like I'll probably, unless I happen to be home and unless I'm like really bored, I'll probably have the celebrity game like on in the background, you know. But the only thing I can say, like, it seems like mostly there's been some. I don't want to say competitive because it's a fucking celebrity game, but I remember there was a few years where people took it seriously and it's like somewhat fun to watch and they make it kind of crazy with the crazy rules. Like I know Micah Parsons went off last year, like he took it pretty seriously, which is funny.
Yeah, no, the celebrity has like actual more competition at times in the NBA All-Star game, which is kind of crazy to say.
That's insane. The only thing I think of when I see the celebrity game is I caught one year. I don't know if they air this every year, but they aired it one year in particular. This is probably several years ago. But BET aired their celebrity game during their what would be their BET Awards weekend in June. And it was like actually like played decently hard by celebrities who could actually hoop a little bit. And it was interesting to watch. It was fun to watch, you know what I mean? You don't take it serious, but it was cool to watch these celebrities and see who can hoop, who can't hoop. And it's more like a pickup game with a bunch of random people. But at the end of the day, it flowed well. It wasn't too ISO heavy, and you could see who could hoop and who couldn't, or who was kind of in the middle. So it'd be cool if they did that. But I mean, it seems to serve its product, serve its purpose either way.
Yeah.
Saturday and the Rising Stars always seems to deliver. They didn't really even need to change that format up, if you ask me, but it seems to work either way. Saturday, you said you watched in-depthly. I missed the skills challenge. And I missed I came back right when they were interviewing Tyler Hero before the second round of the 3-point contest. So I caught up on the skills competition and the 3-point contest, the parts I missed yesterday. I watched that before the actual All-Star game. So what were your thoughts on All-Star Saturday night? Do you have a out of a 10? Like, what would you give it? Were you more impressed than previous weekends? What'd you think of it overall?
I would say 7.5,
Wow.
8 out of 10 for Saturday.
That's generous. That's generous.
I would say 7.5 probably for the entire one.
Now
I think
gotta
the
hear.
skills competition. I think the skills competition this year has been better than in years past because I think every team actually tried, and it had a little bit of controversy because Chris Paul and Wemby. That was actually a really funny part of it. So for anyone who didn't watch the skills competition, Wemby and Chris Paul went first, and instead of taking the three in the new format, you have to take a 3-point shot at the right wing, and then you got to take a free throw, and then you got to take a corner three. And instead of taking actual legitimate shot attempts, they just threw the ball 3 times forward because they wanted to get through it as quick as possible. Chris Paul thought that he could do that within the rules, and then afterwards, obviously they got
Chris Paul.
It was. They got through in 47 seconds. The winning team got through in a minute. So they blew everybody out of the water because of the fact of that. But they got disqualified because in the rules, I guess it says you have to take 3 legitimate shot attempts at the basket for you to do such a thing. And they were arguing it on the side. And then TNT reporter, I cannot remember her name, but she did a good job this weekend. Yeah, thank you. Allie LaForce, yes. She was trying to get in there and be to talk to Chris Paul about it, and
they wouldn't let her interview.
They were like, nope,
which was weird. I could see if this was the Super Bowl or something. You can't interview the lead ref in the middle of the Super Bowl, but why can't whoever
Yeah.
the rules guy is here that was kicking out Chris Paul and Wemby? Why wouldn't he let why wouldn't he let her interview Chris Paul? And why wouldn't he want to be? I mean, I could see if he didn't want to be on TV, but like he was very adamant. And then to the point after where they mentioned it again that they wouldn't let her interview Chris Paul. I did not understand that. I'm actually mad.
It was
I'm upset.
same. It was actually hilarious because even then Kevin Harlan was really excited, wanted it to because
He's
like
like
she went
sneak
over
over.
there and she said no, and then afterwards he was like, Allie, you're down there. Just go over and see if you can get a word from Chris Paul. And
It's
he was like,
TNT's
Kevin,
last
am
All
I
Star
single?
weekend anyway.
Yeah, it was like, Kevin, am I singled right now? And then she was like, yes. And you could clearly hear like the first sentence, and then they actually cut off what she was like. But she's like, Kevin, I can't get down there. Like, they won't allow me to get over there. I was like, that's hilarious. But so, not just for that fact, every team actually tried. So it made the skills competition. Not that the skills competition is like the most fun thing in the world, and obviously the mid 2000s was the peak for it when you had Steve Nash and Dwayne Wade like kind of setting records and actually going through it at a fun pace and doing these things. But it made the skills competition actually not a bore. So I wasn't bored with it. I think it was the best one in a few years because every team legitimately tried to go through it and wasn't just jogging through. So that was fine with me. Then the 3-point contest I thought was good, not great. I've seen better 3-point contests. It did come down to the last shot, the second to last shot, and the last shot. So that's always good. Buddy Hield got hot at the end, but he did miss the fourth out of the fifth threes. He needed all five to. I wish he would have made that fourth one. So the last one would have been obviously that. But regardless, it was still fun. Obviously, you had Dame, who didn't even get to the finals. He had 18. He missed his second to last shot, too, to get out, and Tyler Hero snuck through. And so you got to see Buddy Hield get insanely hot and score 31, which is the tied for the most ever. There was the competition. You're never going to have a bad 3-point competition, especially with the level that people can shoot at
In
this point
theory.
now. So I mean, you theoretically could, but like, I don't believe you can have really a bad one because one, you're going to have 4 all-star caliber players plus doing it about every year. Like this year, we had Jalen Brunson, you had Norman Powell, who's been playing at an all-star level. You had obviously Damian Lillard. You have Tyler Hero, who is an all-star. So like, I mean, that's just those 4. I mean, there's obviously others, but you have players that are always going to be there. So you have the names typically, and then you have the competition is fun. And you get to just see them shoot. So it's always good. And I'll let you go, and then I'll talk about the dunk contest because I know that's probably going to be a separate its own thing.
Um, Actually, go ahead. Talk about the dunk contest. I mean, you know what? Actually, I'll lead you into the dunk contest. Um, Liked it better than the most recent years. I would say. I would say it's the most entertained I've been in a while, and the competition is so bad, Keenan. I don't really remember what the last one that I enjoyed was. Um,
2020, Aaron Gordon versus Derek Jones.
oh, okay, yeah, that probably was the last one. 5 full years ago now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed this one. Mac McClung killed it per usual. Think he flubbed maybe once or twice, like one or two slip ups and not actual misses, which is always better than an actual miss, right? So he killed it per usual. Unreal athleticism. Stephon Castle did okay. The other two did garbage, which is what you usually have in these competitions. Whatever, whatever. We got some oohs and ahs. Like there was some. Actually, all of Mac McClung's dunks got a reaction out of me. Like he killed it.
Mm-hmm.
I great. He's not in the NBA. I heard it hurts him even worse, Keenan, that I think all 3 years that he's done this, he's repped a different G League team, so he can't even like stick in the G League. I don't know if that's common or uncommon.
No, but the thing is, he's been playing really well in the G League, like incredibly well in the G League. That's the weird thing. They've done 2 years ago, 23-24, he averaged like 24, 6-4, and was the G League MVP. And they won the championship. And then this year he's averaging like 15, or he's like 17 a game on like 40 something percent, like mid 40s shooting. Like he's actually playing very well in the G League. It actually made me think like, why hasn't he gotten like another shot in the NBA? because like I mean, obviously he's a smaller guard. When you think about it, he's a smaller guard, and if you don't have that elite quickness like with the ball and like being able to play defense at a high level as a smaller guard, it's gonna be very tough unless you have something that makes you stand out. But you're going.
Uh, Stephon Castle, that 360 behind the back, that was super dope. He did that
Mm-hmm.
pretty clean. I didn't like the crowd reaction to it, but and by the way, fun fact here, Keenan, like just in the middle, the first All Star game, Keenan, I watched was in 2000, which was the last time the Bay
They were in
Area
San Fran.
got it. I had just gotten back from Daytona, visiting our like our aunt and our cousins over there. I had this is a true story. I got bit by something, went into the hospital immediately after my birthday. My birthday is obviously, as you know, Keenan, the end of January. So picture this: I'm pretty much in the hospital from I think February 1st, and still in the hospital on All Star Weekend. 2 week, I'm in like 2 full weeks in there, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the first All Star Weekend I remember watching. First All Star game I remember watching actually. Um, so that's 25 years ago. There is no
Yep.
reason for the Bay Area, whether it's Oakland, whether it's San Francisco, to go 25 years without an All Star Weekend. Um,
No.
it's one of the best basketball cities you have. There's a lot of sports cities in the NBA. That's one of the best true basketball cities you have, or at least once upon a time in Oakland. San Francisco is probably not as rich as Oakland as far as basketball goes, um, from what I hear anyway. Uh, Besides the point, th- that's going to go into a larger theme that I'll get on after we discuss the weekend itself. Is the NBA just misses a lot of basic things, right?
Yep.
Like, does them having the All Star game in Utah affect me and you overall? No, of course not.
No.
If it's a good game, it's a good game. But there's certain cities, and this is the same thing as the Super Bowl, that should just be like every 4 or 5 years. LA should get an All Star weekend.
Yep.
Miami hasn't. We've been through this. We looked it up. I think every year we've looked it up. Like, I don't think Miami's had an All Star game in like 30 years. There's cities that are built for that, right? Vegas should have one every 6 years. Vegas, Miami, LA, New York, obviously, the Bay, Philly, DC, even, and Boston
I don't know
hasn't
if you
had one
said.
since the
I don't know if you
'60s.
said Chicago, but
Chicago,
Chicago's. Yeah.
Chicago, absolutely. Chicago had their first one, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago since the '80s. Like that's just
Mm.
completely missing the point. Um, and you know what? If Boston, which is a smaller city, I can see Boston not having the infrastructure nowadays for the All Star Weekend. But if you're telling me Boston had one within the last 30 years, okay, then we're keeping it consistent. For Boston not to have one since the '60s, and then on top of that, Miami just doesn't get them, and New Orleans, I've heard, is a good site for it. People seem to like the New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans ones, but my point is like keep it simple, right? That's part of the NBA's problem is they're not keeping it simple. Um, I'm gonna let you go on to the dunk contest before I get into the commentary at large because I have quite a bit more. Quite a bit more. Keep
Yep.
going.
Um, yeah, I'll talk about the dunk contest. We can get into that. But the last thing I'll say real quick on it was just as you were saying, rotated between. There's like 8 or 9 major cities, and then one city every decade. Give it to someone random. That would be for me. Like I would. There's no reason why every 10 years, or like technically every 19 years at max, because if we went to the beginning of 2020, I like say 2020 and then 2039, but like there shouldn't be like once a decade, like Miami, as we were saying, Miami, Chicago,
You
San
want some breaking
Francisco,
news?
LA.
You want some breaking news about All Star Weekend?
I would love to.
The NBA, the NBA is exploring the idea of a one versus one tournament next All Star Weekend with a $1 million prize. How do you feel about that?
Wait, they're doing that same tournament with a $1 million prize? Sorry,
One-on-one tournament.
one-on-one turn. Sorry, I didn't catch the one-on-one. I thought I said same, but I didn't catch the one-on-one.
No, one-on-one.
I think that. So here's what I'm gonna say to you. I think they watched, and they may not have. I think they may have watched Unrivaled because they had a one-on-one tournament.
Mhm.
And it was actually a very competitive one-on-one tournament, and it ended with Nafisa Collier winning $200,000. She actively said, I want to win this because I want to show I am better than everybody else, and then she went out and won it. She beat Aaliyah Edwards. You had to like, and I was watching, I didn't watch those live, but I did watch a lot of the highlights and a lot of the stuff around it, and it was competitive. It was fun. Skylar Diggins and I think Arike Gumbawale went back and forth and had them a battle. So like, great. The only thing, two things I need: the players to care. Like the thing about the WNBA, which is why it's becoming like it's like those things are even more fun to watch for a WNBA thing. It's because they just care more. So even if, obviously they're not the same level of talent, duh. But like they care, and if you care, I care. But like I need the NBA players to care, and I need a couple stars to do it. That doesn't have to be a bunch of superstars. Like I understand that it won't be like Steph, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Jokic, all of them. Like, but like, give me a Kyrie, give me a Donovan Mitchell, give me Ja Morant, hopefully, and then you can give me even some other players, like the 3-point contest, how it has a Damian Lillard, it's got a Jalen Brunson, and then like you can give your Cam Johnsons, your buddy. I mean, obviously those are specialists, so you want to see them shoot. Like those are high level shoot. But like there are still people like Lou Williams wasn't a superstar, but he's a high level one-on-one kind of player. So like just
Sure.
give me a few of them and I'm cool with it. Like I wouldn't even mind seeing just like a Peyton Pritchard, just to be interested to be like, oh, how good is Peyton Pritchard one-on-one? I don't know. Like he's a really good basketball player, works well within the Celtics system, very good shooter. Let's see how good he is one-on-one. Like I would be interested to see that. So I would love it if they would actually entertain that, and I would love it if they would entertain that idea. So
Could be cool.
I'm all for it.
Could be cool. It could be cool. Quick thoughts.
That comes down to the NBA players again.
Quick thoughts on the NBA dunk contest before we get to Sunday, and my final thoughts, because you'll see where I'm going with this comment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where the clock at? I don't know why I don't see my clock. Okay, I see it.
About 10, 12, 23.
We're 22 minutes
22,
in, and this is maybe 17 minutes too long on All-Star Weekend. So I want to hear. Give me your quick dunk contest thoughts, and then I'll wrap this up a little bit because I got some thoughts on Sunday.
Yeah. So, John, after Mac McClung went nuts, I think he put on his best performance to get his three-peat. He got 4 50s. He actually only got 4 50s throughout the other 2 years. So I think he had 3 his first year, 1 his second year. I think he's had some iconic dunks. Like, I mean, the 720, the jumping over, like Blake Griffin jumped over the hood of the car. He jumped over the actual car with a guy sitting in the top and did a reverse. That's gonna be like one of the greatest dunk contest dunks of all time. Like I don't care what it like. That's the double dunk was amazing. That's just the hand-eye coordination, being able to do that. I mean, he jumped over someone, touched the front of the rim, and then dunked the ball. Like that's just insane. But so I think Mac was a 10 out of 10. I mean, he got all 50s for a reason. I think he was a 10 out of 10.
What was his second dunk, by the way? It was on the side. He jumped over someone.
His second dunk, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm forgetting his second dunk. Oh, yes, he jumped over the guy. He paused in the air and then reversed this way.
Oh, yeah, that was probably my favorite. That was probably my favorite dunk of the night.
It was clean. That one was clean because he turned 270 degrees instead of just turning the 90 to throw it in. So like that turns hard, but he like legitimately like paused enough so you could take a clean photo of him and then came back. Like no, that was insane. His whole package was insane. That was actually a conversation. Yes, pause there. But like we had actually a small conversation in the group chat, and it was. I wonder how this would have compared with Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine and like that contest, and so I was like, oh,
would have put pressure on him for sure.
It would have. That would have been very fun to have a trio going back and forth like that. So Mac McClung just solidified himself as being one of the 5 greatest dunk contest participants ever. I mean, he's the only person who's ever got a three-peat. You obviously Vince Carter with his iconic, Aaron Gordon, even though he never won one, Zach LaVine, of course. Mike, Dominique, Spud Webbs have a great one. I mean, I could go. I don't need to go through Jason Richardson, but But I mean,
Desmond
you
Mason.
had
We got to give
I
Desmond
was
Mason some
like,
love here too.
I mean, I could give Desmond Mason, Nate Robinson, Dwight Howard, Blake Griffin. I mean, I could continue to go on. I was just going to try to stop it before I went too far in.
There was one.
So,
Keenan, I just want to say
go on.
this.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of Jeremy Evans, and I completely forgot about this dunk because it must have been a trash dunk contest. But he jumped over, might have been Karl Malone, but he jumped over somebody. I forget who it was. Jumped over somebody, and he doubled. He two different balls dunked it while jumping over
Yeah, no,
somebody. That's insane. I forgot about that, and I'm like, that's one of the best dunks I've ever seen. I completely forgot it even
it was
happened.
that one. I think that may have been the same one as like JaVale McGee and other people in it randomly. It was a weird. It was like the late 2010s. It was like when they were starting to experiment with the dunk contest because like during that time they had John Wall when he won it. They had like the round robin kind of thing. It was just such a weird, like they had like the freestyle dunk thing. They've experienced with a lot to try to make it fun. It really just comes down to people caring and people doing it that people want to see. Because I'm going to get into I'm just going to get into the last part. We can talk about that and then we can move on. Because Mac McClung was a 10. Okay. I think Stephon Castle did very well for his first dunk contest. I think he eased his way up and every dunk got better. So I think that he had and I also think when you have a guy in Matas Buzelis who misses his first dunk, which could have been cool, but like misses his first dunk, and it was Andre Jackson was the other one, correct? Mm-hmm. And Andre Jackson, who like both of them together did nothing, weren't good at all. They were missing dunks and everything. Stephon, after his first one, was like, I just have to be semi-okay, and I'm getting to the finals. And then I can – and then he said there, I'm going to try to get my best dunks for last. He didn't do it perfectly, but I still think that between the legs off of the make is insane. I think that like just the timing of that, having to do that, I really like that dunk.
Tough one.
I thought he was going with a windmill. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but I've seen it.
His guy missed the bunny at one point.
Yeah, I was gonna say he missed one. The timing was off, but when he got it, and I was impressed. I was like, oh, okay, that's actually a really nice dunk. And then you're right, that behind. It almost didn't get enough because it was too smooth, but like he went behind the back 360 with the left. That was insane. So like I liked his slab dunk contest. Like that's what I want to see. Like I don't expect everybody to be able to jump over vehicles with props and do all that stuff. You guys you guys don't spend your time dunking all the time. But like doing things like that will always impress me. I don't care who does it. Vince Carter's 360 windmill reverse. I've seen that dunk 1,000 times since. It still might be one of the most clean dunks and one of the best dunks. Like
no one's done it like him. No one's done it like him at all.
It was a full windmill. He was looking at the rim, and they were talking about it before. If you watch the ball bounced 10 and a half feet in the air after because he punched it down with that much power. So like it's those kind of things. Like that's why. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But the dunk contest was not the greatest, but Mac McClung is what made it great. And then Stephon Castle actually giving him a semi-legitimate was giving him a legitimate competition because obviously he scored really well on the between the legs and got all 50s on the behind the back 360. So like it made Mac couldn't have a bad dunk because if he did have a bad dunk, he would have lost. So like it made Mac actually have to perform a bit, and I love everything that he did. So. Yeah, but so dunk contest was better than it had been in a couple years past because before it was really just the Mac show only. At least Stephon Castle came to at least participate, and we got some of the best Mac dunks. So I was fine with it, but again, I'm comparing. It's graded on a bad curve, rather than I'm not trying to compare these to 2015, 2016. 2000, 88, 87, like I'm not going to do like 03. I'm not going to compare it to all these ones because they're just not close.
It might be the most in-depth All-Star Weekend analysis I've ever heard in my life. we even got to Sunday yet. That might have been more in-depth than our Super Bowl analysis.
I think it might have been, but hey, listen, the dunk contest is near and dear to me. That's something that like I legitimately... Like I've studied the dunk contest, like, and honestly, like I don't know why I just love it so much, which is why it hurts when it's bad. So like that's why I'm like, thank you, Mac, for being good. thank you, Stephon Castle, for caring. He even said that he was going to bed early because he wanted to actually go out and try to put on a show for people. And that's the mentality I need like every rookie and every young person to have. I mean, and then Mac made John Morant say that I might have to do it. And then it made that Zach LaVine said, thinking I might have to again, ... So if we can get Zach LaVine, if we can get Mac said.
They said that this Saturday? They said that like this
They
weekend?
said it, yeah. Literally
Wow.
said it. Because
Hopefully
John
they
Morant.
hopefully they don't pull the LeBron James and not do it. You know what I mean? Hopefully they don't do the LeBron.
No, because that John Morant said something about it, and then he said Zach and AG, what's up with the eye emoji, and then Zach said afterwards, thinking I might have to again. So if they
Would love
can,
it.
I know Aaron Gordon said he would never do it again either, and Mac said after his three-peat, he was like, I think this might be my last one, but if they beg me to do it, then I might do it again.
Which they will.
So
Which
if you
they
could
will.
get a Mac McClung, Zach LaVine, John Morant, and they could beg and get Aaron Gordon to do it again, yeah, I'm there. I'm there. Yeah, absolutely.
Give me Wemby in a dunk contest. Give me Wemby in a dunk contest. Hey,
dunk on like a 17-foot rim, just like
right? Maybe. Look, this dunk contest was again. It caught my attention more than in years past because if you remember, I came on here last year. Well, first of all, I was looking forward to this dunk contest more than I have in years because my mindset going into it was different. Last year, I told you all like I will start watching this dunk competition for the worst to happen. I want to watch it for the shit show because last year was such a shit show. Last year was so bad. I'm like, moving forward, I'm never going to take this seriously, which I should have stopped taking it seriously years ago. I mean, I kind of did, but I mean, we got some great ones here and there in between. But I was like, I'm really going to start watching this just for the mess. Just, if they're going to keep leaning into this and keep putting it as the top build act, as the third act out of, all the competitions, then yeah, I'm going to watch it for what it is, which is a shit show. And it actually was not a shit show this year. Wasn't all time great, but it wasn't a shit show. I said this last year. I don't know if I said it exactly the way I'm about to say it, but I believe this is the route they should go. Get rid of the skills competition, which I agree with you. The whole controversy with the Spurs team with Chris Paul and Wemby, hilarious.
I agree with you that it should.
I
do agree with you that the skills competition shouldn't be there, but like this is the best one in years. But I agree with you. Like even though it was the best one in years, it was still like fine.
Yeah. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. So this is what they need to do. If you're gonna have Mac McClung and the likes of G League players, rookies, bench guys, role guys, if that's gonna be who's taking the mantle for this, for going forward. And by the way, we've always had that. Every decade you have it to where there's a lull, and then stars come back. It just really doesn't look like the stars are going to come back. If Ja does do it, amazing. If Zach LaVine comes back, amazing. I'm not holding my breath though, right? So if it's going to be Mac McClung, have that be your opening chorus. Start off with a concert. Started off with a big intro for the 3-point contest and the dunk contest. Have your 4 participants in the dunk contest. Yeah, get LaMelo out there, I guess. I saw, or G-Lo, I should say. Saw him performing. Or Jello, I guess he's called, whatever. But yeah, have your 4 participants. Have that lead in. The crowd was actually good for it this year. I thought the dunk contest crowd has been better than in years past. Again, reasons why you should have it 100%. In the Bay Area. But have that be your lead in, and then blow out the 3-point contest tournament style. Get like 16 participants. Like you mentioned, Keenan, shooting is so prevalent in the NBA. The participants they had might not have been the same participants if you took like the the top 16 or the top, they got 8 participants, top 8 by percentage. It'd be different than the 8 that they got. Like Norman Powell, he can shoot the 3. He's a really good shooter in game. Didn't do his best, but like you can justify having him in there because he does get up a lot of threes. You know what I mean? Whereas Isaiah Joe leads the league in 3-point percentage right now. There was no reason why Steph should not have been in that competition. He was hosting. You got to do whatever you can to get Steph in the competition. That's again the NBA just missing the boat. Dame was great. Dame's from the Bay. Of course, you want him in there, and he was going for the 3P. Cool. Which it didn't. I didn't even realize he was going for the 3P, but apparently he was.
Mm-hmm.
But completely missed the boat not having Steph in there. Whatever you got to do to have Steph in the Bay, because apparently they're not ever going to have it there again for another 25 years if we're judging by recent history.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Sure.
It's gonna. So Sabrina and Steph wanted to do their thing kind of again, but there was no way that they could find to try to top it. They wanted to try to do it in a little bit different way. With Caitlin saying that she wanted her first 3-point contest to be in the WNBA, I feel like the way to top last year was to get a duo of like Clay and Steph versus or Dame. I mean, because Dame was going to defend his but you would have had Clay and Steph in the Bay because obviously Clay still loved in the Bay.
Sure, yeah, our famous splash hose segment from last year.
I mean, and then they asked Caitlin and said no, but
that's again the NBA missing the point. You had a hit last year with Steph and Sabrina. You don't follow it up because Caitlin Clark didn't want to be in it. She says their first one's going to be in the WNBA. I don't know how I feel about that comment necessarily because you're going to have more eyes on you on NBA All-Star Weekend. But whatever, that's fine. But for them to say, you know what, we're not going to top last year. That's the peak. Let's not run it back. Doesn't seem like good business. But then, okay, if Sabrina and Steph don't want to do that, you pay Steph the extra $5 million, whatever, to get him in this 3-point contest. Have him as the fucking final boss. Who the fuck cares? Bring him out after Tyler Hero wins it. It's Steph in the Bay.
That's what they should have done. That's what they should have done.
It
should have been.
The NBA just misses the point. They miss the point over and over and over. But anyway, I would love to see them, like I said, dunk contest intro, 16-man style tournament knockout, 3-point contest, blow it out. That way you can have like guys like you mentioned Peyton Pritchard in one-on-one. Peyton Pritchard should have been in the 3-point contest. Steph's got to be in the 3-point contest. I don't know. Maybe you can look this up real quick. Like just for an example, look up where All-Star Weekend is next year for me real quick. All right. You know, maybe if Donovan Mitchell, he's point is you got enough shooters to go around the NBA, blow it out, 16-person style.
Cali.
Like LA?
Like Los Angeles.
Cool. So you could have Harden, I guess. It really doesn't matter. You don't really have a Luka maybe. You know what I mean? Whichever, but 16 people, 12 people even. Blow it out even more. Get 3 rounds in there. Really do it up. Because, hey, once upon a time, the dunk contest used to have like 8 participants, and it was tournament style.
Remember they had the wheel?
Yeah. I think that was the first dunk contest I watched, actually, back in the day. Because that had Desmond Mason in it.
It was like 01 or 02. I think it was 02, and then they went back to the regular in 03 because that was when Jason Richardson went back to back.
For sure. Tournament style 3-point contest. Dunk contest is the intro. If we're going to have guys with less name recognition be the stars of it. And that should have happened years ago where they switched the 3-point contest to later. Again, NBA and Adam Silver just missed the point completely. Just simple fixes. And Keenan, I just want to get to this. All right. I have notes for the All-Star game. I'm going to give you my positives from the entire event. Okay.
Yep.
I've got, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bulletins. One of them actually does not have to do with the All-Star game. So really 8. And here's the 3 that I have that are positive. Raphael Sadiq killed the intro. During the player intros, they did like a medley of like Bay Area music. They were great. They were amazing. Sadiq and his band killed it. All right. Wemby was great. He brought the energy. One of the only players to really bring the energy during the All-Star game. And the highlight for me, this was great. And this was Kevin Hart not giving a fuck because maybe because it's TNT's last All-Star game. But I don't know if you saw this, Keenan, but he was, first of all, he was just featured way too much, like way too prominently. He was featured in the All-Star game, like more than the players, honestly. And that's not an exaggeration at all. Kevin Hart was featured way more than any single player was featured in the All-Star game, okay? He did have the moment of the night and maybe the moment of the weekend for me when he, on the mic, on camera, obviously, live TV, asked Shaq why he was dressed like a porn director. That's the funniest shit I've heard probably ever when it comes to All-Star Weekend. Uh, why are you asking that? Like, that's just an insane question. That's an insane joke on somebody. It was fucking hilarious. I think I replayed it 2 or 3 times. People say Kevin Hart's not funny, and I get why they would say that. But Kevin Hart's funny when it comes to joking on people, and especially when he's getting on Shaq or Chuck or whoever. So that was the highlight. Those were my 3 highlights, Keenan. The game was it didn't help in terms of effort. If the effort was an F before, the effort was a C minus, maybe a D plus. Um, the game did nothing for me. If I never watch an NBA All Star game ever again, I will be fine. Do away with the game. Seriously, please, Adam Silver, do away with the game, or I don't know. I'm ready for a new commissioner, though. I'm ready. I truly am. I truly am. Uh, this game's a joke. Let me go through my negatives. Let me just give you my other notes I have here. Too much Kevin Hart. The energy was okay. I had Wemby. Um, and this is again them missing the point here. Can they open the game with again, mind you, games in the bag, games on Steph, home court. He's the only Golden State representative. Um, they opened the game with Barkley's team, I believe, which was
Mm-hmm.
majority of the world, international players, whatever. They opened that with them against the Rising Stars. Why wouldn't you put Steph out there immediately? Why wouldn't he be the first in the last game?
No idea.
Again, simple, just simple, but like just missing the point. Is it the end all be all? No, but why would you wait 40 minutes into your broadcast before Steph, and in this case, it would have been LeBron, but LeBron sat out the game. Would have been Steph and LeBron first. Wow. Or in that case, if LeBron played, sorry, they would have been 45 minutes later. Like, that's just stupid. That's stupid marketing. That's stupid use of your biggest stars, right? It's simple stuff. All right. They had a random 100K challenge with Mr. Beast and Dame Lillard and a random fan, and the fan made it at the buzzer, and he got like 8 shots to do it, and I'm not sure why or what that purpose was. Uh, Best part of that was Dame kind of trying to shut out Mr. Beast from like talking or intervening. There was just way
Mm-hmm.
too much. Keen, I think, do I have this screenshot here? I do not. Let me see if I can get back to it. But there was a breakdown, Keenan, of the actual event. Like there was
Yeah.
42 minutes of basketball played, and
Mm-hmm.
like the 3 hours of broadcast, all that other shit was filled up by the Mr. Beast thing, Kevin Hart, uh, ads. You know what I mean? Everything else they had a, inside the NBA tribute. Okay, it was just a ton of filler, not much basketball. The basketball that was played was hardly quality. Uh, it was again disappointing because it seemed like they could have got something done with this tournament style format. The players do not want to play. Uh, can they even like? You said you hadn't really seen the game. Did you see like? Did you watch highlights or did you like go back and watch? Because only reason.
I watched more. I watched more highlights just because when I got home it was like 3:30, and so like I watched some highlights of it, and then I woke up when I watched little more highlights of it, and then I listened to Steph talk about the game afterwards
Only
with
reason I asked
Draymond.
you was because they would take breaks at 15 and 30 on a game to 40, which fine.
So I did. So I did see that. So the only reason why I saw that was because I was checking the scores as it
Mhm.
was going on. Like I was like thinking I check the score, and I saw it was like paused at 11-1 or like whatever the update on like
That's
NBA was
exactly
like
what I was going to
paused at
get to.
11-1 for like 15-20 minutes. I was
And
like,
that
wait, is it just like not going? Because I just kept looking at the minutes. I was like, are they missing that many shots or
no,
like
no, no.
what was going on?
And that's exactly what the last thing I was going to get to with this game. Again, Adam Silver and the NBA missing the point. They wonder why viewership's down. It's shit like this, man. Uh, so when they stopped at 15 and 30, it
Hmm.
would be normal TV timeouts, like when you're watching a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
3 to 5 minutes,
regular,
then you're
fine,
back into it. For whatever
fine,
reason,
right.
Keenan at 11-1. Again, they told us, they told the viewers 15 and 13. And one of the timeouts was taken at 28 instead of 30. I don't know why. And then this one was taken at 11-1. Weren't told
Hmm.
why. And yes, they had a whole. That's when they did the Inside the NBA segment, the whole
Mm.
tribute thing, where Kevin Hart gave them gifts, and it was 15 minutes. So they stopped the game for 15 minutes in the middle of the what's supposed to be the most important game, the championship game in this event. To do like why? What are we doing? Uh, it's a terrible product, Keenan.
Like,
The
why wouldn't
playoffs.
you do that at the end? Like, I just
Why don't you
doesn't
do
that
that at the
doesn't
end,
make
halftime, any time, but the first quarter or the first break of the championship game?
that just
Uh,
doesn't even make any sense to like if I'm going to set this event up, like if I'm going to set this event up, it is a game. The 40, it's 240. Like, obviously, you don't know how long they could take. They could take 5 minutes. They could take 20 minutes. You don't know how long it's going to take because it depends on how good these athletes are going to. And obviously, I mean, in this game, it's going to take up only 10 because these guys aren't really playing defense and these guys can clearly make open shots. But you don't need a break. I'm sorry, you don't need a break. They can be fine. I'm pretty positive that like Steph can play 10 straight minutes of basketball. And if you do need to call yourself a timeout, then whatever, call yourself a timeout. But like in between games is when you should be doing these small things, and they shouldn't be longer than like 10 minutes. Take it like, as we say, the NBA kind of can feel like AAU. Just treat it like an AAU tournament. You play your game, then in between, like when you're switching the next ones, let them get warmed up a little bit, whatever, because you obviously want them to play. That's when you do your stuff, and then you go on to the
well,
next
that's
game.
that is when they were doing the stuff. It's just why did they decide to do it
It
then as
just
well?
And then also, it's like I don't care. Like, why is Mr. Beast at the All Star
Thing
game? Like,
we don't
that's
know. We don't know.
we
Keenan,
don't need him there.
this is my thing.
Like, I
This is
what are we
completely my
doing?
thing. It's gonna be. It's okay. A few things here. It sucks that this is TNT's last broadcast event,
Yes.
probably ever for the NBA. All right, because I thought TNT most definitely holds it down, right? And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, my criticism would be, I mean, it was just a terrible product last night on the court and off the court. It was an awful product. I've never seen a. I'll go as far to say, Keenan, as far as Sunday goes, I've never seen a worse product as far as Sunday. Uh, I've seen a worse product on the court, but cumulatively with all the shit they were doing in between, absolutely awful. I have not watched a worse sports TV product in quite a while. Um, that being said, I'm watching TNT, and they didn't have your normal crew doing the pregame. Uh, they had Jalen Rose, who's great. I hope NBC takes him. They had Vince
Yeah.
Carter, who's really good, who is very
Like, I
and
like.
he's go ahead.
I was just like, I like Vince Carter a lot. One, and two, I'm glad they kind of did like pay tribute to Vince Carter at this one because obviously it happened in San Francisco, his legendary dunk contest. So like they tried to implement Vince Carter in like good spots and they didn't overdo it, but they did it enough because obviously that's an iconic dunk contest and he was an iconic figure of the 2000 All-Star game, which is the last time it was in. So
Sure,
like I'm actually happy like the way they used Vince Carter. That was just all I was going to say.
sure, yeah, yeah. No, Vince Carter. I remember he was doing media even when he was a player, like prepping for this
Yep.
moment, and clearly it's worked. He's great on TV.
Yes.
Again, hope he ends up somewhere next year as well. But Jalen Rose is great. Like he needs to be used way more often in any media form when it comes to the NBA. Adam Lefko host. He was going to be the replacement. Looked like if TNT ever kept the NBA, looked like he would be the next Ernie. So we'll see what
Mm-hmm.
goes with his career. Draymond was the fourth guy. And by the way, it looks like inside the NBA in some form or fashion is going to still be around, right? It's just ESPN bought it. They still might be run by the Turner crew. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that at a later date. Um,
Mm.
Draymond, though, man, every time he's been on since I would say last postseason, this dude just goes up there and says shit. It's like Twitter come to life because he was talking about how the Warriors offered him the head coaching job. I do think he's correct though. He lamented the fact that the Rising Stars were in the All Star game. How you have to earn your way in. Why are the Rising Stars there? Maybe instead of guys who were snubbed or the next 12. I kind of agree with that. I think they should blow up the rosters if they're going to do it tournament style. Why not have 36 All Stars or something like that? Um, but man, what else? He was just hating hella hard on everything, and Draymond seems more. He gets on a lot of media members right now for being haters and stuff like that, and he seems like way more of a hater than any former player, truly. And he's still in the league. He was talking about how on I forget if this was in the conference or if this was on air, if this was a press conference he gave the day before, but he was lamenting the game as a whole, saying it's not a smart game. There's too much shooting. Um, that it's just literally people trying to jack up threes. The NBA is in a terrible spot, Keenan, and it sucks because their playoff product really is as good as it's ever been. Aside from the injuries, the product's not the playoff product is not much different than the 90s or the 2000s or whatever came before that. And the 2010s. That's remained the same. That's remained dramatic. The 7 game series works. Again, it's the injuries that have hurt it. The regular season is damn near dead. All Star game is dead. It's been dead, but like it's official. I hope that NBC, if they're going to be holding the rights to the All Star game and all that going forward, uh, hopefully they can fix this somehow, some way. Hopefully the league, in conjunction with them, can fix this. ESPN, I've said this many times, Keenan. ESPN has done way more damage than help the last 2 decades with the NBA, but especially last decade. Um, and that's only going to continue forward. I know they're getting less games, but they're still going to be the dominant holder of like the NBA finals and all that. Um, I don't know what the fix is because again, the playoff product still is great. The playoff product still can be anywhere from a 7 to 10 out of 10, depending on injuries, depending on the teams you get, how the series go, whatever. But the regular season and them catering to kids, which you always do cater to, right? You're going to cater to your younger audience, but you're also going to cater to the core hoop heads, right? You should anyway. But they seem to cater to a generation, Keenan, who doesn't even watch the NBA. They consume the NBA through TikTok, through YouTube. They don't consume it through TV. All right. So why are you catering to them when it comes to no defense? When it comes to I don't know. I guess the lack of fouls being called, the ticky tack fouls that are being called. I don't understand it. The NBA has lost its soul. The soul's been gone for a long time. Um, it's disappointing. I mean, we're gonna end the show talking about like actual basketball stuff, but I mean, just the state of the NBA is really sad because I don't think there's any way you can fix it to where players actually take the All Star game seriously. It's supposed to be a celebration of the game. It's supposed to be the world's best pickup game. Um, there's a great clip of Kobe talking about this on the what is it, the Knuckleheads podcast with Corey? Is it who is it? That's it's Darius Miles and someone else. Who is it? Is that Quentin Richardson? I think it's Darius.
Yeah, Quentin Richardson.
Yeah.
I think it's
And Kobe had and that had to have been 7 years ago when Kobe gave this interview, 6, 7 years ago, and it's still remains true today. Uh, there's no reason why you can't put on a show for the fans. There's no reason why you can't get in a defensive stance here and there, do some highlights. It's bare minimum stuff, and you you package that with just what the NBA did. Too much Kevin Hart, too much Mr. Beast, too much, like you said, Drewski and Kai Cenat. Uh, you're going to lose your core. And this is a weekend where you will get casuals more than ever. No matter what your product is during the regular season, no matter what your viewership is, this is where you're going to get casuals. And what they saw on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, unfortunately, is representative of what goes on in the NBA. The NBA, whether it's on the court or off the court, panders way too much to social media and not just to people who want to watch basketball and want to watch hoop. And that's where the WNBA, Keenan, is winning, as we've talked about. They're creating at least a good encore product. So disappointing.
I mean,
to say the least.
It is, and it's one of those things too where on court, if they don't change it, it's only going to get worse. And I say that because biggest draws in the league: LeBron, Steph, Kevin Durant, with 3 or 4 biggest draws in the league. They're going to be gone in 2 or 3 years. Like, obviously, it's in the Bay. You should on, like, these should be the celebration. Like, that should have been the celebration of Steph, like, kind of thing. Like, obviously, he's been in the Bay. He's a legend. Obviously, like, it's in his hometown. Like, that should be a celebration. So I get those like, kind of things. But, like, these guys are going to be gone in a couple of years. And if Ant's not taking it over, and if Tatum's not taking it over and trying to do that, the stars are like, it's going to be even less. And so it's going to matter even less. But everything you just said, I 100% agree with. Like, it's to the point where.
Let me give you a quick KD tweet.
I'm not upset that I had to miss it.
Exactly. Let me give you a quick Kevin Durant tweet that he apparently just tweeted out, only because it goes exactly with what we're talking about. He said, I think it's more fun to complain about the NBA than to actually watch it. Crazy. Cancel All-Star Weekend and give everybody a break since we're all miserable around this time. That's the state
Yep.
of the NBA right there. That's one of the players, Keenan. You just said that's probably one of the biggest draws in the NBA, and that's how he feels about All Star Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Give me a 3-on-3. Just give me a 3-on-3 pickup tournament for people who actually care and want to be there. I'm cool with it. That'd be fine.
Keenan, we laid it out, and maybe we'll go more in depth with it. Put a real basketball tournament here, right?
Yep.
I don't even care if it's the worst 8 teams in the league. Put some sort of incentive. Put some sort of real basketball going on here. Does not have to be. You can still do the dunk contest and 3-point contest, by the way, but have some sort of tournament on Sunday. Not like last night, closer to what you get in the in-season tournament. And then guess
Mm-hmm.
what? 2 months from now, you get the real NBA playoffs. Then, because this is going to be the most fun time of the season, Keenan. This last month and a half here, we're going to get real basketball. We're going to get, not that we haven't been getting real basketball. I don't want to lament that because there is actual great basketball that
This
still
year's
goes
actually
on
been
in the
really good
NBA.
for basketball.
Yeah,
This
it's
year's
been
actually
great.
really
It's
good.
been great. It's just there's been way too much criticism, and the NBA hasn't done much to combat it. Last year, coming out of this time, they told every ref basically to swallow their whistle, and people, for the most part, fans responded well. They went away from that. Uh, I mean, I could go on and on. I've said many times, cut this season to 66 games. Do this tournament style thing that we're talking about. And again, we'll go more in depth maybe in the off season for All Star Weekend. Replace All Star Weekend with that, and then boom, you're already at your stretch run right there. You're already good. You already got the in season tournament. You're good right there. All right. Then you can sail nicely into the playoffs. Again, this is the best stretch of the season. You're coming off the Luka trade that dominated headlines, dominated the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest sports story, not only of the year, but maybe of the last 2 or 3 years. That's still an insane story that we're still going to see we're going to continue to see the ripple effects of that Luka's entire career.
Kyle,
Lean into that.
without the Luka trade, this was an insane deadline.
Sure.
Jimmy moved to the Warriors. De'Aaron Fox went to the Spurs. Like, without the Luka trade, this was an insane deadline for what moves happen. You throw the Luka trade in on it, it's catastrophic when it comes to NBA terms and things like that. It was just blew up everything. And you're right. I cared about that Luka trade more than I cared about the Super Bowl. In turn, was that part because the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl again, and then you had Jalen. Obviously, the Chiefs Eagles, we've already seen it once. It's just the Chiefs. We just wanted to see them lose because no one wanted to see them three-peat outside of the city of Kansas City. Like, sure, but like again, I cared more about that Luka trade and then the trade deadline this year than I actually did care about the Super Bowl. That part be my own personal agenda, but at the same time, that was also just because that was also the biggest trade, the most shocking trade in NBA history, and one of the three biggest trades in NBA history. I mean, up there, it's that or Kareem getting traded to the Lakers. Those are your moves. So
It's craziness, man. I mean, again, we're about to talk real NBA stuff now, but I don't know how does the NBA increase? How does the NBA get better? They should be better than they've ever been right now. We hear constantly people's constant reply to like, oh, people don't enjoy watching the NBA right now, is that the NBA is more entertaining and in a better spot basketball wise than it's ever been because the talent's so deep because it is a slash and kick league. That's true. Yeah, in theory, it should be like the most fun basketball to watch, but I don't know, Keen. Something about the NBA, and again, I could go deeper into this, and I probably will in the offseason. The NBA's lost its soul. That's something that the NFL will never lose, and that's why the NFL is still king. Um, MLB still, to some degree,
it's
has its soul a little bit, but the NBA's lost its soul. And when you lose the soul,
the NBA
not much left.
became MLS or became soccer in the MLB kind of. Where
A little
and
bit,
I mean that in
a little
and I
bit.
mean the sense of like in the MLB when Shohei Ohtani went to the Dodgers, no one looked like this is stupid. Are you kidding me? People were like, he got paid what? Because big baseball moves like this has been happening forever. So it's just almost par for the course. So it's just like, okay, that's just part of baseball. The teams who have the most money typically get the best players and then they go on runs. Obviously, but not every team with the best player wins every year. The Angels had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, they didn't win a thing. Obviously, the Dodgers did last year when you have Mookie Betts. I mean, I could go on that team. That team's insane, and they're going to be even more insane this year. But like, so like in like that, but then soccer, you see all these big contracts being just thrown out at people because like you want the best players on a team. But like still, because there's a lot of great players, that doesn't solidify and mean the fact that you're going to win. Again, there's 9 people on a baseball field. There are 10 people or 11 people on a soccer field. So like there's still more pieces to it, even though like you have a Cristiano Ronaldo level player, whatever. Obviously, I know he's older, but like still in the NBA, the thing that made the NBA great was you didn't have a bunch of player movement. It's why like the decision was insane because you didn't have that. Like that didn't really happen. Like you had the Celtic big three. That was the first real. But like again, you had older players who got actually moved for like just good trades, and like you put together that team. And it wasn't. It felt organic and it was fine. It was just you made draft day trades and made big moves. Cool, that happened.
Well,
Um,
just to interject
go
there, the only thing you're
go.
correct. There was still player movement in the NBA, and there was big players that moved in the NBA, and like you said, there was big trades. What made that one so crazy, and kind of why we're here where we are now, was it was LeBron going to Dwayne Wade's team. That's what made that,
Yes,
as you
I
know.
was getting there. I was getting to that point too. And so you have the decision there, and then you have the best player in the world, or if not at the worst, third. At worst, at third. But the best player in the world joining somebody else's roster and then building like the idea of a super team and then going from there. And that was fine if that was a one-off move. Like you look back on it like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. But then like the LeBron, like the time where LeBron wasn't fine, and then the NBA was fine because even then the Heat lost the first year to the Mavs. They won in 5 against the Thunder. They were going to beat that Thunder team. They had an all-time classic 7-game series against the Spurs, and then the Spurs beat them in 5. So like they went to 4 straight finals, but they didn't just run the league. It wasn't over. And then he went back to Cleveland. It was like he almost reset it. He went back to Cleveland. Everything else was fine. You had KD in OKC. You had Golden State, who obviously became the powerhouse. You had Houston just got James Harden. So everyone had their pillars. And then it was great. And then Kevin Durant going to the Warriors is really just where this went down because 2015, 2016, for my viewing basketball lifetime, was the best basketball season I've ever watched. You had every game mattered for the Warriors. Steph was a walking Michael Jackson show every game. Everyone just came out to see him. And then you had who was going to beat this team, but there were still teams that could compete. You had a Thunder team who you could argue was even more talented, just not a better. And then obviously they had a classic 7-game series. Then you have LeBron coming back from 3-1 with Kyrie. Those two evenly matched teams, and then that 73-9 team that just went 7 with the Cavs got Kevin Durant, and then the league was over because we knew they were going to win it all. They go 16-1, win it all. And then the next year there was a little bit of intrigue because the Rockets took them to 7, but still they took them and they won it all. And if Kevin Durant didn't get injured again, they would have won it all. So like that just became that. And then the Warriors went down. LeBron got a little older. Then COVID happened, and then just threw everything out of whack. So like it just.
It's a good
And
summary.
then like now.
It's a good
And then
summary.
we're now back. We're back to having people have their pillars. It just doesn't feel the same because like you
Right.
have Jokic, you have Ja, you have obviously the Timberwolves with Ant. You've got the Lakers just traded for Luka, but that was a massive trade that the Mavs just said we don't want our pillar anymore. Just get rid of him. Like we don't need him in here anymore. And then you've got obviously Boston who drafted their team. Like they just I don't want him. Just get him out of here. He's
We
too
don't
fat
we don't
and he
want
doesn't play
this.
defense.
Oh
He's
man.
too fat, doesn't play defense. Get him out of here. And then they got Boston they have Philly who has like everybody right now. The NBA should be right at its pinnacle, and this season has been very good. Don't get me wrong. I've been watching it. I've enjoyed it. This season should be very good, and I'm hopeful this playoffs is there. But now it comes back to like just the care of people and like how I think how you take your society and then like the youth is like the Gen Zs that are coming into the game. They don't have the same kind of competitive fervor at every level as people like Ant do. I don't want to make it sound like they don't care, but like someone like LaMelo he goes out there, hoops, and goes home. Like he's chilling, but like he cares about basketball and loves playing basketball. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make him sound like he has no care for the game at all. But like it doesn't seem he cares about playing basketball. I don't know how much he loves and cares about winning. I don't know
Yeah.
yet. Like I don't know. He also hasn't been in that situation too,
Yeah.
so I can't like fairly say. I don't want to try to put like
Seems
him
like he's
into a
more than
bubble.
cool with collecting his 40 million and getting
Yeah,
highlights
like
for the gram.
Like he loves playing basketball. Don't get me wrong. I think he works. He's very good. He's one of the top 40 players in the league, probably. I mean, obviously, he could have been an all-star this year. He's putting up 28 a game. You're not bad if you put up 28 a game, of course. But like, he's, as you said, he seems like he's fine collecting a check. And so, like, you don't have, when you're top 20 players or 30 players, you feel like 10% of them, 15% of them are fine collecting checks. It's going to trickle down to the rest of the team, and you won't have a lot of people there, which is why the season needs to be anywhere between 66 and 72 games. And honestly, I would take the first round and I might make it a 3-game or a 5-game series instead of a 7.
That would
Your
unfortunately
number one,
never happen. They used to have it 5 games. They'll never do that because of
it
the TV money and the TV revenue.
of course. Like
And
it
you know
makes
what?
sense, like on a business perspective, but like for a fan competitive perspective, if you had the idea, like especially with how deep the Western Conference is, a 3-game series, like you had like the Warriors, say made the 8 seed this year with Butler and Steph, you might not feel they're better than the Thunder in a 7-game series. But if they steal a game, and then now they have a home game at home and it's Steph and Jimmy, that's adding intrigue. So like I just think like you have a 3-game or a 5-game series, like the best team, if you're that good, you should still win. So like I don't think it would really have changed much, but I also think that it would add it and then go like 3-game, 5-game, 7-7. I know they won't do that because again, that is 4 games, 7 series. That's you're probably taking out
you certainly
50
can't
game
go
of revenue.
you certainly can't go best of 3. I think that's even a
No, like,
problem in the WNBA. I don't like a best of 3
yeah, you're
anywhere.
right. I go best of
Uh,
5. Best of 5. I think a best of 5, but I do think a best of 5 would be better in the first round. I truly
it
because
probably
then
is.
too you wouldn't have to deal with like if Boston's just gonna go beat up on Atlanta.
It
Like I don't
probably
need to
is.
see that. I don't need 4 games for that.
It
Like I
probably
really
is,
are.
but you know what? I think they're 1-8 and the 2-7s. I think they're better than 10 years ago because the league's deeper. My problem is
I would agree with that too.
my whole thing is, and this is simple. I don't get how Adam Silver misses this. Get rid of the play-in. You don't need.
Yeah.
You can't have. You literally have 20 teams out of 30 teams playing for a playoff spot. That already diminishes the regular season. Does not increase the regular season. That automatically gives you, especially where the East, like the bottom of the East is terrible, right? That automatically gives you 10 games in a 82 game season where you can already chill on a certain amount of games, especially if you're already a playoff team, like a top 14. Sure, there's 10 to 12 to 15 games probably you can take off here or there, depending on the schedule.
Yep.
But when you got bottom of the league teams, 10 seeded teams who can take off because, hey, we only need a few games to really compete, it's a problem. And again, between ESPN and the discourse they constantly have, like the shit I see on social media, the shit that I see that Kendrick Perkins says, or Stephen A's not as bad. I mean, Stephen A says his shit, and they obviously Stephen A serves a purpose for ESPN. But when you got Kendrick and real NBA people who say ridiculous things, and it's not even for anything other than clicks and views, it's not actually to have a real discussion about the NBA. That hurts, and it only has gotten more ridiculous over the last 15 years. So between that,
It,
and I've said this, go ahead before I go on.
no, you're fine. No, and I'm thinking about it too. Like ESPN has the people there too that really love and know basketball,
And they'd rather have them
well.
talk about it like it's like they're on Twitter.
And then they
don't
have him on
actually-
the side. Like I love hearing Brian Windhorst. He's going to give you authentic stuff, and he's on the know. Zach Lowe, Tim Legler, like these guys, like legitimately watch, dissect, break down
Tim
basketball.
Legler's
Like there
great.
are featured.
Tim
Don't get
Legler's
me
great.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, they're featured, but like they just don't feel as prominent as like Kendrick Perkins, Richard Jefferson. I do like Bob Myers, by the way. I think Bob Myers has done a very good job there. Obviously, I think also like Hook. Well, I think Malika Andrews, like they have Chene Ogumake. I think she's actually
I mean,
also done a good
all you
job
need to
there
know
too.
is Perk's essentially their number one basketball talent on ESPN, and all he says is bullshit.
Mm.
And it's a character he's playing because he's done Celtic games where he's like cool and fun to listen to. He's literally just a Twitter figure on ESPN at this point, and it's ridiculous. Uh, I'll say this, going back to the little like the review of like the decision and how we got here. I mean, there's some days, Keenan, I can't
Mm.
lie to you, as great of a game and as classic of a game and as phenomenal as it was to watch. There's some days I really wish Game 6, Western Conference Finals, maybe Clay just misses 2 threes and we're not here. There's some days I really do wish that because Kevin Durant never goes to Golden State, and then the league's probably to this point in a better place because that just wiped out 3 years of and I know Toronto won, I get it, but it wiped out 3 years of things, and COVID messed things up too. But you got that on top
I
of
wish. Or do you think that if sorry to interrupt, but do
no,
you think if that Kyrie and Kevin Love don't get injured in 15, they win it?
I do. I've always
Warriors win it and win it. Warriors win it in 16. Draymond doesn't get suspended. Do you think KD still goes there?
no. I mean, KD, so much had to happen for that to even get in that position. It was really because of the TV money, and they front loaded it to where everyone got insane
Yeah.
deals that one summer, and it was allowed to where somehow Golden State had the cap room to get Kevin Durant.
Well, it's
Um,
because Steph's contract didn't kick in because he was on the cheapest, best deal literally in the history of history because of his ankles. So
sure,
like they signed him to like a deal, but like obviously Steph was getting paid. Steph was getting paid Norman Powell today money to play, like what Norman Powell could be paid today money to play, and as he was arguably the best player in the game, obviously had arguably the greatest regular season we have ever seen.
sure.
So like it was, and they're like, okay, yeah, we can add Kevin Durant to
No,
this because Steph's not getting paid
there's
yet.
a chance. I
Okay.
mean, there's a chance to answer your question. There's a chance if the LeBron and the Cavs win in 15 that they repeat in 16, and then maybe
Mm.
the Warriors get Kevin Durant. Then it seems less crazy because you're not going to a 73-9 win team that just beat you in the conference finals, right? Things go a little bit
That
differently, obviously.
people like me think they probably win in 5 if Draymond Green's not suspended.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were heading towards
like
winning
and
that game, and maybe LeBron and Kyrie win that game with Draymond Green. Who knows? But I mean, it's a joke. It's been a joke. And look, I've said this before, Keenan. What really got me into the UFC,
Mhm.
I'd always watch highlights of the UFC. I'd always kind of keep up on it on a peripheral, but I didn't really. If you're on the outside looking in, you're like, man, they have championship fights like every month, and they have all these events
Mhm.
every month, and there's constant turnover as far as champions go. Possibly, you're like, how's that sustainable? And then, when Trent started having those viewing parties for the UFC, we started going up, we started watching, and it really felt like, and you get this in boxing too, but boxing's more simple to catch up with. It's hit or don't get hit.
Yeah.
Um, the UFC really felt like you were stepping into their world watching it. I didn't feel like they were trying to explain to new viewers, but the way their commentary was and how they were presenting the show, not only was appealing to new viewers, but you catch on. If you watched enough, you're going to catch on. They explain it well enough. They're not gatekeeping, right? And it's just like, oh, this is a cool little world that you're stepping into. And,
Mhm.
here I am 5, 6 years later. I watch it just as much as any other sport, damn near, right? The NBA, if you were stepping into the NBA's world on All Star Weekend, you wouldn't know what the fuck's going on. You wouldn't know who the fuck's popular outside of LeBron or Steph. You would think everybody was talking about viewership being down and this and that, and you would get such a negative view of the NBA. And here we are, we're two of the biggest NBA fans you can find, and we're once again. I mean, this is a very common topic on here. As much as I hate to say it, but
Mhm.
that's the state of the NBA. And if you were just tune in last night and look at Kevin
You
Hart
don't.
talking and no one playing basketball, and then when the basketball is on, it's at 40% effort. You'd be like, why the fuck would I watch a regular season game of this? I don't even know who's good. This is not telling me who's good or who's great. Um, I don't know why I'm supposed to watch the sport. They're not presenting
Mhm.
anything to me. And then on top of that, again, I'm seeing entertainers, streamers, internet personalities. I'm seeing these guys featured as much, if not more, than the NBA talent. Uh, poorly done job by the NBA this weekend. Truly,
Yeah. And
truly.
two things. One, you have like your main media outlets, Fox Sports, ESPN for the most part. Obviously, you have like CBS and all these other ones, but the ones that you see like your daily television shows on. Other than NBA Today, which is obviously an ESPN thing, your major debate shows don't even really talk about basketball unless something like massive goes on. Kevin Durant, 30,000 points. Shout out to him for that, by the way. That is an amazing accomplishment. But you don't get many people talking about it because it's only football season. But like I know, I was like, I mean, we were alive when the Warriors were doing Warriors things. They were being talked about during basketball season. Like when you have great things going on, you have things or football season, I should say. Sorry, you have things being talked about during that time. Obviously, football is always going to be king because of it, but like football is on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. So you talk about, but like your blocks are 2 hours. There's no need, like you have time to fill in. Especially the league goes on, starts in October, late in October. You would swear the NBA starts in mid-January. Like they have like a little play-in turn, they have a little tournament, and then like it starts mid-January. So it's like it's kind of crazy, like the marketing thing and like the care of people. That's one. And another thing I wanted to quickly say: the WNBA is in a position right now where they feel kind of UFC ish. And what I mean by that is they don't like if you've ever watched like any broadcast and things, they don't just cater only to big stars. Obviously, Caitlin Clark matters, and clearly she has been so pivotal. You have to have to play into that. And she's in her second year. She was a rookie last year, so she's gonna be in the league for 15 plus years. Hopefully 15 plus years. Hopefully she doesn't leave early like Maya Moore, but they're in a position now where they can go one of two, and obviously they're an NBA partnership too, like with everything. Like they can go one of two ways, and I really hope they go down the we're going to keep this here. We're not going to bring on streamers. We are going to keep this product king, and we're going to we're going to push behind our stars that we have that we're going to have, and they make this because like they're in a position right now where I already said this year the Indiana Fever are going to make the finals, and they're going to have a higher viewed finals than the WNBA and than the NBA. And unless for some reason the Lakers get there or the Warriors get there, that will happen. Don't care who
Even if
any
those
other team.
even if those guys get there,
I
it really won't matter. It really
I
won't matter. Viewership's down across
I
the
think
board
if
with these
Steph or
finals.
LeBron's in the finals again, I think it'll probably be higher viewed. Other than those two guys, literally those two
Depends on
guys.
who they're playing. Depends on who they're playing.
Because if they're playing Boston or if they're playing New York, those are like if they're playing like those big market teams, I think that will be a higher viewed finals.
If they're
But
playing
if you get a
Cleveland,
Boston
they're playing
OKC,
Cleveland, it's not going to be a great draw.
LeBron maybe just because the LeBron going like playing his old team kind of thing could play into it. But like no, I know what you're saying because Cleveland's not obviously that big of a market. But book it if Caitlin Clark's in the finals this year, I'm guaranteed they're better
But they're
views.
they're in lines.
Guaranteed.
They're in lines of problem with the NBA though. Like Cleveland's a great team. It shouldn't really matter their market size. They kind of that's another kind of myth LeBron leaned into was that like stars need a big market. They really don't. Um, I don't know.
Stars need good players. You don't need a
Star,
big market to have good
stars need good
players.
players. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. Look, I'll say this. All the things I've lamented about the NBA for the last 45 minutes, I think we're gonna have a great postseason. There's a lot of intrigue there. Um, there's just with NBC coming in, and again, they're gonna only have like probably 30% of the games compared to like what's really going on. I know Amazon's got games too, but there's a real position where they could reset here going forward. If this
Mm-hmm.
continues, I don't want to say it's a dying sport, but it is going to go the way of the MLB, especially if they're going to continue to cater to, again, a generation that does not watch the games on TV. Why are you catering
Mm-hmm.
so much to social media? Uh, and,
The
that's
thing,
ESPN in
it's
general.
so easy. You don't have to cater to social media. Like the NBA is so good And the players are so good that they cater to social media by just being themselves. Like
Exactly.
Steph can pull up from 36. That's social media. That's just him, but that's Steph being Steph. That's not him trying to do too much. That's just literally how he plays. Like cater to social media by showcasing what's going on. You don't actually have to go and try to showcase it. Like the talent's what I care to see, and the talent's what a lot of people care to see. Like all younger kids want to just see like amazing fun stuff. I don't think it's they need to see clips of Kai Cenat laughing on the sideline. Like I don't think they really need to push and listen to Kevin Hart just only talk. Like I don't think
I'm
that's
not,
what you need to
and
clip.
I'm not only talking about
Like
that, Keenan. I'm talking about the I'd say the last 15 years we've talked about on here. I mean, they do not shy away from, and in fact leaned into and gone away from, I would say, embracing the past. All Star Weekend used to be where you could have the legends meet, and you're embracing the legends, embracing maybe the last few
yep.
decades along with the current game. They've leaned into all this legacy talk, all this. I don't want to say rings culture because I think that's corny. Because we've always judged champions in any sport. We've always judged that.
The
It's
We
not just the
Believe
NBA.
Warriors would have been cool to talk about. The run
Sure.
teams, like the Chris Mullin and Tim Hardaway, like that would have been
Exactly.
really cool.
Exactly.
Honestly, and I'm not even kidding you. I don't care he's still in the league. Doing something for Steph within San Francisco, knowing you never go there, I would have been fine with it. I don't care he's still in the league. Would have been fine with it. But like there's many there's still Warrior legends there, and that's why you should do them in the big cities. Not that small markets don't have like their legends there too. Well, they all do, but like you want to do it in big cities and big spectacle, big life. But like you should do these things for these people. Like I just you're right. The legends matter. Like the NFL never lets down the fact that the legends of the game matter. Always them. That's something that
MLB too. MLB
you,
does a great job.
the MLB, absolutely.
The UFC
They pay homage to.
the UFC and boxing does a great job paying homage. I would say
Mhm.
just about every sport other than the NBA, and the NBA used to be great at it. It's just unfortunate, man. I mean, last thing I'll say regarding All Star Weekend, it used to be appointment viewing. It used to be something you looked forward to. It used to be something like, oh, I got the Super Bowl
I
this weekend.
forgot that last weekend was All Star Weekend. I
Yeah,
genuinely did.
likewise.
Never
Uh,
forgot it in my life prior, like to 5-6 years ago. I was like, oh, I'm circling it. Like that's All Star Weekend.
it used to be something to where you could say, okay, I got Super Bowl weekend this weekend, then I got All Star Weekend next weekend. You could watch it with friends, with whoever. You could have a little viewing party for it if you wanted.
Yep.
No longer is that the case, and you could say there would be people who would detract, would say, oh, it's for the kids anyway, this or that. Sure, yeah,
It's for the fans.
literally, but yeah, it's
It's
for
for
the
the
fans. It's supposed to be a
fans.
celebration of the game. Like it's not the dunk contest. Everyone's supposed to enjoy a dunk contest. Everybody's supposed to enjoy a 3-point contest. Make this a celebration of the game. Adam Silver, just do better. Please do better. Again, maybe we're taking this new TV deal as a reset in 2025, 2026 going
So
forward, but please do better because otherwise, yeah, I'm not sure what this league's going to have to stand on in a few years post
it's
LeBron,
gonna be
post
second to
Steph,
the
post Durant.
WNBA. That's what's gonna happen.
Might just
Well,
be.
listen, you have Paige coming in this year. You have Flage, who just dropped an R&B album, who it's actually trending. You got a superstar. You got a superstar there. You've got Juju Watkins coming in. There's other stars coming in. So, like, they're having an influx of legitimate stars. You already have Asia. You have people like Diana Taurasi who are going to be around the league. Sue Bird. And so you're still,
She's
and
still
they
not
still pay
officially
homage to.
retired, right?
I know
Tarasi.
she's not officially retired, but like, and so she might have one more year in her. But like, you have all these pieces here, so like, you have a young crop of people. And I went to UConn versus Tennessee. I went to that game. That was a really good game, by the way. It was a very fun game. Obviously, I was there in the stands. There was in Tennessee is one of the most cultured for the Volunteers. They're one of the most cultured, loyal fan bases out of all colleges. It's like Tennessee, Alabama. Like they're one of the true there. Obviously, that's the Summit Arena, like Pat Summit. That matters. A lot of Paige Becker's jerseys there. Lots of Paige Becker's jerseys there. A
Hmm.
lot of UConn. I mean, because I was actually shocked. I was a lot of Paige Becker's jerseys and a lot of Paige Becker's fans there. So like her start, like honestly, her stardom alone is better than 85 to 90% of the NBA, and I'm not even kidding. Like it's kind of crazy to think about it. But like I don't know if her or Karl Anthony Towns are more famous. I truly don't know. Like I think people might recognize Paige before Karl Anthony Towns. And I mean, shout out to Towns this year too. I don't know. It's up in the air. But like it's a conversation, Kyle. Like that, the fact that
It
it's a
could be.
conversation is
It
kind of
could be.
crazy.
I
The
do
fact that
think
it's a conversation is crazy.
I do think the
That's all I'm saying.
WNBA and women's basketball in general is plays well with kids. It's that they're great role models for young women, uh, and girls growing up all around the country. That's why we're definitely going to see an influx. Like these next 5 to 10 years are going to be insane for the WNBA. I think they're
And
going to be.
that's why this is such an important
Uh,
part for the WNBA. Don't mess it up.
I will
Don't
say,
do look at the NBA blueprint and just don't do all of that. Like try to keep this thing still pumping. Like
weirdly,
don't do all of that.
weirdly, I will say like the secondary stars of the NBA, like Ant, like Karl Anthony Towns, like maybe a Lillard, if you want to call him secondary. He's still like a list. Um,
Yeah.
and Anthony Edwards, like they're still more recognizable than 99% of NFL players. You know what I mean? So the NBA does at least somehow
Yeah.
get that right. It's just the marketing of the actual
And
game.
that's why it should be right there on the NBA level. You have players who are recognizable. Like that's the thing. Like
Recognizable.
the you yeah, I was like, you have players that are recognizable. Like you should be able to almost compete with the NFL. I mean, the NFL is always going to be king. Like I don't like the NFL is just always going to be king, but you should be able to really compete with it because you can see the face. It's not just the jersey and you see the 15 in Mahomes. I mean, obviously we all know what Patrick Mahomes looks like, commercials and everything like that. But like on the field, you don't see him. You don't know what he looks like. Like there are definitely parents out there who know the name Mahomes, but don't actually know what he looks like. But like with like LeBron, you have that's face to name. You know what LeBron looks like because you see him always. That should be an added factor. But I know we wanted to actually talk to the second half of the season. I know we're talking obviously for a while. We can maybe split this up and kind of do a two-part or whatever, wherever we see fit. But what do you think about the second half of the season, NBA wise? Do you have
Be more
your thoughts
specific.
on it? Do you want to get
Be more specific.
um okay, so I know you said you're excited for the second half of the season. We did talk about that. You're excited for the playoffs, as am I. In the Western Conference, how many contenders do you feel there are?
Hmm. OKC for sure.
Yeah,
Um, Denver for sure.
absolutely.
Memphis is like quasi contender, but I'm not really taking them seriously, even as a 2 seed. Rockets,
Uh
no.
huh.
Lakers at this point, no. They can't play defense. Um,
I'll go through the rest of them. The
sure,
Clippers.
sure. Clippers, no, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe they would be a sleeper. They would be a they'd be a,
They could be a tough out, I think, but I don't have them as a contender, but I have them as a tough out, especially if you get a healthy Kawhi.
if you get a healthy Kawhi with the defense they play, and now the addition of Bogdanovich, or sorry, Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
Um, there's a world there, right? Wait. Yeah, he's Bogdan. Yes, Bojan's the older one, Bogdan. So there's a world there. Yeah, they could compete. They can compete with anybody. They can lock up. You need defense in the playoffs. If Kawhi's healthy and he can give you huge, if he can give you 2 months of consistent basketball, yeah, there's a
Mm-hmm.
world because you got the coach, you got the infrastructure. So
Yep.
there's sleeper territory if they can hold on to their playoff spot. They can hold on to that
Yes.
six. Um,
Yeah.
I
The
put
Timberwolves.
no,
Did you say no for the Timberwolves? Sorry.
no.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a tough out. You have Ant, but I don't have them as a contender.
I don't
The
even think
Mavericks.
I don't even think they make the play in. Healthy Anthony Davis, they're a
Ooh.
sleeper as well.
Mm-hmm. Sacramento.
Possible playing.
Possible playing. Golden State.
I now think they're a sleeper
Mm-hmm. Phoenix.
on a lower level. Phoenix is done. Phoenix is cooked.
And then I'll say San Antonio.
I was bigger on them right after that trade, but how far back they are to the Golden States and to the like the Suns. I don't see it
Mm.
this year. Next year in the playoffs, next year making noise, but this year, no.
Yeah, I think that they might be able to sneak into the play-in. The Spurs, that is, they're talented enough to do so. Obviously, with the De'Aaron Fox trade, but the Spurs do this cool thing where they love to just take a quarter off. So they'll just like take a fun quarter off, and they have been in a bunch of close games that they lost
Typical young
towards
team.
the a young team. I mean, it's Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, and then everyone's 27 or younger. So like they're still very young, and the oldest is De'Aaron Fox. He just got traded there. So I think that they can make a push for the plan, and I think it'll be interesting. I think they might be able to sneak in at like a 10-9-ish, maybe, depending on what like the Kings do. But I'm with you right now. The Thunder are my favorites. I had the Thunder winning the championship prior, and I as of this moment right now, I do not push myself off of that. I think the Thunder are there. I think they're everything. I think Denver has found their stride, and you have a Jamal Murray who is back to being Jamal Murray. Last year during the playoffs, he wasn't great. He had some big shots, but he wasn't great overall. So now you have Jamal Murray back, and he's been playing great. Obviously, Jokic is Jokic. So I have those two. I have those two as the true contenders. I then have the next bubble I would have would be um, probably an adequate like they can contend or they can contend. I'd put Memphis in there. I would put the Lakers in there, and I'm gonna keep it to those two. Dallas is iffy. I need to see how like healthy and how good they look with Anthony
Who are
Davis
the
before I
Lakers
kind
getting
of put
stops
them.
against, though, is my question.
It's they're not getting too many stops. So I don't know if they're
At
getting
all.
stopped. So like that's kind of the thing. That's it's all dependent. I mean, I also would I'd like to see them play more than just a couple games with Luka and let him get back into groove. So like let me, but like there would be the second level, and then the third level there would be. I mean, maybe even Golden State on the level with the Lakers, because honestly, Golden State can play defense. They've been a top 10 defense all pretty much all season, and then they're a top 5 rebounding team. So like
After I've seen
they
it,
play defense, they rebound. The
After
thing that
I've
was
seen
problem
it,
with
I
them,
like Golden State better than the Lakers right now, and that's even
mm,
with Luka. And yeah, you're gonna have an extremely tough time stopping the duo of LeBron and Luka, but
mm,
it's everyone else. And on top of that, like you just have no depth at the center position,
yeah,
and you have no one who can be the point of attack defender in LA. Whereas Golden State, you have a balanced team. Curry seems unlocked ever since this Jimmy Butler thing. They got
yes,
two creators. And then Draymond's still playing at a high level. And they got actual depth to go on top of that. Like Jimmy brought
mm.
some real balance to their team.
Like, when I was talking about it with you, I know, and you were very adamant like that they weren't going to really do much when we were talking about the trade initially. I was like, the thing with Jimmy that I think that the Warriors were feeling, and I kind of put it like a number one wide receiver, is that you now put everybody back in their spot of where they should be. Like Steph was the only guy who could would generate offense by himself. And now that you have Jimmy, Buddy Hield doesn't have to try to be a playmaker. He can just be a shooter. Like Gary Payton can just be a defender. He doesn't have to actually try to score a bunch. Like it just put everybody back into their position, which is why I think that they're interesting.
I
And
still
they have to just continue.
I still don't
It's
love it.
tough.
I still don't love it long term.
Oh,
But
I don't like it. I mean, long term, it doesn't matter. This is literally a 2 year move.
it
Like
just seemed
that's it.
desperate.
Like this is just a
But
two
now
year
seeing it, just seeing how it unlocks Steph, I do have more confidence than I did a week ago in them
because
for sure.
like because the thing about it was every Steph is clearly not. Steph is 93% of what he used to be, about 93%. Like he's still great. Don't get me wrong. Like that's still great, but it's not 2019 Steph. 2020, 20, or 21, right after he broke his wrist when he was averaging 32 a game. When Clay was still out, they had no KD. It was just Draymond, and he was just cooking and doing whatever he wanted to. He's not that level of quickness and that level of player anymore. So he needs a little bit extra help. So when you have an offense that's just him, he can't produce at that same level that he always could. He will give you games, but he couldn't do it consistently. Now that you have another guy, especially an inside presence that like post up can do that, make great plays off of it. Steph's been averaging like 33 since. Like he's been just going for 30 every night pretty much since Jimmy Butler's been there. So I think that team is going to be very tough in a 7-game series, especially because the difference between like the Lakers, their role players for the most part haven't been in like high leverage playoff moments. A lot of them, they've been in some like the first round and things like that, but they haven't been in high leverage. All of the Warriors players for the most part have been champions,
They've got the
and you have to think
continuity.
they haven't even
They've got the
they have
continuity and unique
continuity, and you have to
continuity.
think too they don't even have Kuminga back yet. Like
Right.
Kuminga hasn't played at all, so like you have even another inside presence. Like I actually think this Warriors team, now watching it for sure, I actually think this Warriors team really can make a run. Not like I don't. They're not a favorite. They're not my favorite. Like the Thunder are still clearly my favorite. Like I think they're going to get to the finals and win it all. But like again, I mean, that win it all is gonna be tough because Boston has been rounding into form and looking good. But they are. I would have the Warrior. I would probably the Warriors are in that next batch. Actually, I would have them in after the Thunder. Actually, I'd probably have the Thunder, Nuggets, and then like the rest of the batch in the Western Conference. And the Eastern Conference, do you think there's anybody beating Boston? Or do you think
I mean,
Boston's just going to go back?
Cleveland could for sure beat Boston. Those are your
Mm-hmm.
top two teams, and with reason. New York's right there too, but I don't think they match up well with Boston. But New York would be the third contender. Wish New York would have got someone at the deadline. Wish New York had a little more wing size to go with OG and Miles
Yeah.
Bridges, Mikal Bridges. Sorry. Um,
I don't know. This is the Carl Anthony Towns I thought we were going to get out of college. Like
yeah,
I don't know what happened, but like he's 25 and 14 a night,
yeah.
shooting
He's all of a
53% from
sudden
the floor and 44 from 3.
he's all of a sudden turned into a vicious rebounder, and he had some big rebounding seasons early, but like he's turned into like a night in night out. I'm gonna go get it at least 10 to 12 rebounds, like you said, averaging 14, and a pretty good playmaker from the mid post. Like his playmaking shining.
He
Shouts to Carly Towns.
this
He's grown
is
up a lot. He's grown up a
this is
lot.
what I like right now. To be quite honest with you, I know he won't. He would be my most improved because
Sure,
that's a
sure,
legitimate.
sure.
Like he went from being 22 and 8 last season in 33 minutes to being 25, 13 and 3, shooting 44% from 3 in 34 minutes.
He's been great. He's an all
You can't
NBA
tell me
guy. He's gonna be an all NBA guy.
he maybe. I mean, he might be all NBA first team because they do positionless. Like he might be a
Yeah.
first team.
I don't.
guy
Yeah,
this season.
I don't
Like,
think he'll get that fifth spot, but he might be. He'll be in contention.
it's gonna be close. He's at worst second.
I would
Like
say.
at worst, like he's been
I-
been amazing this season.
I could see them giving it to Brunson over him if it had to be someone taking that Luka spot. Because it'll be SGA,
'Cause
Giannis, Jokic,
Tatum,
Tatum.
Tatum, SGA, Jokic, and
They'll-
then after that, I don't.
My guess is they'll give it to Brunson, but you're right. Towns is probably just as deserving as Brunson.
He might
So-
be more like. Oh yeah, I didn't say Giannis's name. Like, and I was going through it in my head, and I know you said I didn't say Giannis's name, but like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say those are for sure the top three. With a bullet
Speaking
next.
of Giannis, they're a dark horse.
Yeah, they would be my dark horse. Top two with a bullet, Celtics, Cavs. Knicks just slightly under them if I was going to tier this, and I will do NBA tiers like I was doing for the NFL. So yeah, top two with a bullet, Knicks slightly underneath them. Bucks the dark horse, and then after that, it's kind of whatever. Pacers are a fun team, but I don't think they'll do much. Heat are a fun team, don't think they'll do much. Shit, who else we got? Philly's obviously a joke.
Did you
Who
say the
else?
Pacers? Sorry.
Yeah, Pacers are fun. Pacers are fun.
Yeah.
They're a round one, round two team.
I would love to see like the Magic. It's been tough for them this season because I had some high hopes for them and high expectations, but they
Yeah.
got injured early. And you're missing Paulo and Franz for a good portion of your season. It's
Injury
tough
bug killed them. They're a defense first team. Otherwise, yeah, I'd have them probably in the dark horse spot. But next year looks to be their year when they get everyone back.
Yes.
Hopefully they get healthy.
Yes. I hope the Pistons actually become something cool too. Like I like the fact that they're actually better.
Yeah, they'll
Like,
probably
and
become a
like,
playoff
They're sitting
team.
at they're the 6th seed right now, and I hope they would stay at that 6 because Cade's been playing great. I mean, he's
Sure.
25 and 9 a night with 6 rebounds, so like he's been playing great.
Sure.
I mean, at some point you've got to turn that young talent into something. So like it's good that the Pistons are actually playing some winning basketball for the first time in it feels like a decade about. So like it's good that they're getting back to it, but
Well, look, I do have some predictions. Let's wrap this up. This is actually this is actually a little bit of a longer pod than I anticipated.
mm,
I do think we had some great NBA conversation though. And I do want to say I
mm,
am hopeful for what NBC is going to bring to the table and maybe Amazon
yeah.
is going to bring to the table for the NBA. But enough with the negative. Let's do a part two where we predict some things in the second half of the season, maybe get some positives in there. Um, this was fun. I've missed talking NBA, so this was a great refresher. We will be right back.
Mm-hmm.
This was part one. This is a little bit of a review of All Star Weekend. You got a little bit of a history lesson from Keenan in there too, and then you got a little light predictions before our actual part two second half, or I guess you could say stretch run of the NBA season predictions that we'll be giving you. So this is part one. Tune in for part two. Keep supporting on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that. This was the Warner Brothers podcast. We will be right back.